Hey, this is Tim Whalen, creator of Purpose Playbooks. I need to make sure that I'm clear about a few things before we get started.
Yeah.
I am a financial planner, but I will never give investment advice or recommend any investment products in this show or in any other public space.
I'm not talking about that.
Everyone has a different financial situation, and you should never implement any investing strategy, product, or advice without consulting a qualified financial professional.
And I hope you guys feel the same doggone way I feel.
This podcast is purely for educational purposes only. There are more disclosures at the end of the podcast.
What else do you want to know?
Enjoy the show.
So today's question is from Kristen. Okay, so Kristen is looking at starting a new business. So Kristen is a nurse practitioner. She's making about $100,000 a year, salary type position. She wants to start a business in general care, more of a direct primary care type of business. And her question is really regarding how much money should she have saved before she starts to open up this business. So just for a little context, she thinks that she can at least get the business started with about $5,000 of investment. She's not exactly sure how long it's going to take to get the business up and going. But really the question for you, Tim, is just kind of generally speaking, what are things that individuals should be thinking about in terms of if we want to start a new business and we want to invest some money and some time into this, how much liquid capital should we have saved before we invest and feel good about it? And really the timetable that we should be thinking about in terms of seeing our money back. Do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I think of three things. The first is that you want to think about how big of a percentage of your income and your savings this is. So in this case, I think you said the lady's making $100,000.
Yep.
And she's talking about investing $5,000 in this new business that she's going to start. So it's a pretty small percentage of her overall financial world. If we were talking about investing $20,000 and the person was making $40,000 a year and had, $11,000 saved, it's a much different conversation. You probably need to build more liquid safety in your checking or savings account before you take a jump like that. So first of all, percentage of overall financial world. How big of a risk is this in your overall financial world? Second, I would encourage Kristen to make a plan. So have a really good answer for how many months it's going to take to make back the $5,000. Do you have a business plan in place that says, I'm going to connect with X number of businesses to provide this direct primary care? They're going to pay me X dollars per visit, and I'll be able to make my $5,000 back in 3 months or whatever that is. Have a plan, a business plan that makes sense. It might not happen exactly according to plan, but having a plan that you can run on is going to allow you to be able to evaluate whether or not the thing is working and get out if it's not a profitable business for you. Number three is the concept of the minimal viable product or minimum viable product, the MVP, which is a buzzword in kind of entrepreneurial type circles. And the idea is, can you create something that gets the job done, that's good enough to test out whether or not there's a market for your services? So in this case, she wants to do direct primary care. I believe she's looking at reaching out to employers and providing direct primary care to them. Is there a model? Is there a market for that? Are businesses going to find that valuable? Well, she's probably going to be able to find that out without buying a ton of equipment and pouring a lot of money into the business. So I always would encourage somebody to figure out how much you can bootstrap. How much can you create something that's a minimum viable product that could give you feedback on whether or not the idea is going to work in the marketplace. So I'd consider those three things if I were her.
Do you think that there's general rules in terms of percentage of liquid savings to invest? I mean, I know you mentioned a couple different things there, things to think through. If we're thinking, should I be using 10% of my savings or 20% and feel confident about using that? Do you have ideas on that?
I think it's going to depend on a lot of different circumstances for each individual person. That being said, you don't want to drain your emergency fund. You want to be able to have a runway. If you were to drop down on your salary and not have that consistent cash flow, how many months can you live on that if the business isn't working out? I mean, I'd say you want to have 6 months or a year of cash flow coming in. Now, if you've still got income coming in through the salary job, that's going to change those numbers a little bit. Yeah. But you want to make sure that you aren't putting yourself in a position where you're risking, being able to pay for the lights and the walls and the food and all that sort of stuff for a period of time, so that when you need to course correct. I mean, does that help? I don't know if, percentage of savings, it depends on how much the person has in savings, what their goals are. But in this case, it seems like Kristen's in a good spot to be able to make this move. It's a pretty small percentage of her overall financial world. It's in an area that she already has expertise in. I just encourage her to make sure that there's a market for it. Test it out. Maybe she doesn't need to buy the examining table or the, whatever computer or whatever medical record type, collection device or whatever she's trying to do. Maybe she doesn't need to buy that before she approaches 5 business owners and says, this is what I do. Are you interested in hiring me? And if they do, then maybe she pulls the trigger on buying some stuff. The opinions and views expressed here are for informational purposes only. This material is educational in nature and should not be deemed as a solicitation of any specific product or service. All investments involve risk and a potential loss of principal. We don't provide legal, accounting, or tax advice, but happily coordinate our services and work together with our clients' professional advisors. For specific assistance, the services of an appropriate professional should be sought. Securities offered through the ON Equity Sales Company, member FINRA SIPC. One Way Financial, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45242. Phone number 513-794-6794. Investment advisory services offered through ON Investment Management Company.